the media capital of the world.
Good afternoon, Burbank community, staff, and most important, fellow council members, and welcome Honorable State Senator Anthony Portantino to our meeting of Tuesday, July the 20th, 2021. In order to balance the health risks associated with COVID-19 and the public's right to conduct the people's business in a transparent and open manner during the current state of emergency and in the interests of public health and safety, the council meeting with our senator today will be online. The public will not be able to physically attend today's meeting in lieu of in-person attendance. The city is providing alternatives for viewing and participating in today's city council meeting. Good afternoon, Madam City Clerk. Great to see you today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor.
It's not 6 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock that we're here today.
I'm happy, thank you.
Okay, may I please trouble you to call the roll?
Thank you. Councilmember Anthony?
Present and accounted for.
Thank you. Councilmember Schultz?
Present.
Councilmember Springer?
Here.
Vice Mayor Talamantes?
Present.
Mayor Frutus?
Rainbows and beautiful sunflower plants.
Thank you.
It's a
And good
beautiful day.
afternoon, Senator. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, my friend.
There will be one period of public comment on today's agenda items only. If you would like to participate, please call right now at 818-238-3335. Callers will be placed in a queue until we begin public comment. Today, the Burbank City Council is honored and welcomes the great state senator of our district, Anthony Portantino, to a community meeting to discuss various topics of interest to the city, from sustainability goals, homelessness and housing, to infrastructure and pandemic relief. Senator Portantino, I am joined today by my colleagues, Vice Mayor Jess Talamantes, Council Member Sharon Springer, Council Member Constantine Anthony, and Council Member Nick Schultz. We are so pleased you could join us today as we look forward to a very robust discussion on important issues relating to the people of Burbank and our great city. Senator Portantino, would you like to make any introductory comments and introduce the staff with you in attendance today?
Thank you, Mayor Frutos. It was great to see you last night at the mural unveiling and the rest of the council members who were there. And Arta Chakian from my office is joining me on the line, and she's no stranger to Burbank. You all see Arta probably more than you see me, and proud to have her representing your state Senate office in the great city of Burbank. Frankly, I've been spending a lot of time in Burbank lately, and it's been great. Not to go into too many details, I was at Providence St. Joe's yesterday for a doctor's appointment, and so love that facility. And as you know, the YMCA Social Impact Center opened up recently during Pride Month, which was really a special occasion for the city of Burbank and for the Y to embrace our LGBTQ plus community and provide a safe place for those young people who need it, as well as the Boys and Girls Club open house recently. That was fun to stop by and see what they're doing. And then I know we were all excited for the community garden to open, and I know Councilmember Springer handed me some cherries she got at the farmer's market that morning. So I look forward to getting that underground tunnel out of the way so we can get that community garden going. And of course, the mural last night was special. So obviously, I love the city of Burbank and spend as much time there as I can. and happy to be here to discuss all of the interests and issues that are important to all of you. And I do know many of you monitored recently, I think it'll be in this week's papers. The legislature passed SB 144 last week, which extends the tax credits for the entertainment industry, adds another $180 million to the current tax credit program that has been so successful for the entertainment industry throughout Southern California. And then I'm excited that the bill also includes another $150 million of a tax incentive to build more sound stages. As you know, the tax credit itself has been so successful bringing back jobs to California that we have run out of capacity. And so I was proud to author SB 144 to create $330 million of tax incentives for this industry that, of course, is so important to Burbank as well as the state of California. So happy to be here.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator. I know that the five of us on council really appreciate how accessible you are, how you're always in our community, and we can always sit down and have a cup of coffee with you and discuss issues on behalf of our residents. I just want to make sure to put it out there that you're always accessible to the five of us, and we truly appreciate that. Thank you so much, Senator.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I left out the fact that sometimes we see each other at the ramp too. So
Yes, but I want to go to that Elvis impersonator in your hometown, so keep me in mind.
Exactly. Next year.
You got it, sir. Okay, let's get back on city business. There are 5 main topics on the agenda today, Senator, followed by an opportunity to discuss your legislation priorities for this upcoming session. Each of the council members will be presenting a specific item that's in interest to the city at large. I first would like to invite Councilmember Constantine Anthony to present the next item on community wellness and provide an update on the city's homelessness and mental, stand by. I apologize. I jumped the gun to get right to the discussion. Thank you, Mr. City Manager, Madam City Attorney. First, I would like to open this up for public comment period as I skipped that. Madam City Clerk, do we have any callers on the line?
Well, it's good that you skipped it because we do not have any callers, so you're safe.
Saved
you're
by
good
the
to
city
go.
manager again. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Woo-wee. Thank you. Now, let me get back on schedule. First of all, I kind of jumped ahead. I first would like to invite Councilmember Nick Schultz to please commence the discussion regarding the sustainability initiatives, and I will be watching the time, Councilmember Schultz and all my colleagues, that when there's 2 minutes out, I'll give you a heads up so you can wind it up, but please take the lead there, Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Senator. It's great to see you again, and I look forward to discussing the council's priorities and goals with regards to sustainability. Just as a bit of a roadmap for you and anybody watching, I want to talk first a little bit about the council's goal of sustainability, so we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that. Then we'll talk about our EV charging initiatives, EV meaning electric vehicle. And then there are a few bills that we'd like to discuss with you at the end. So we'll just jump right into it by sharing that in January at our council goal setting meeting, the council set sustainability as one of its 5 primary goals for this year. And we're taking several important steps to meet that goal. First and foremost, the city is updating our greenhouse gas reduction plan to align and meet with the existing state targets. As you well know, Senator, this plan will quantify the city's share of statewide greenhouse gas emissions and establish our local reduction targets. We've been in the process, city staff has been in the process specifically of extensive outreach and conducting numerous workshops, not only to educate the public, but to gather input into the development of that plan. And we'll note that the greenhouse gas reduction plan is going to be coming back to council for consideration later this fall. I should note that we also, as part of our fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, built in funding for a sustainability coordinator position, which will be housed within our utility, Burbank Water and Power, and will be responsible for overseeing the implementation of various sustainability initiatives. So I think we all take a great point of pride in moving that forward. With regards to our energy portfolio, in 2015, Burbank Water and Power, and that slide was just up there a minute ago, achieved our goal of providing 33% renewable energy to the community. And again, we're all very proud of that. But we are aware of not only the state goal, but our internal goal here at the City of Burbank to achieve 100% greenhouse gas neutral sources of energy by 2040. And I'll also note that our city is continuing to have conversations both at the utility and home of our Sustainable Burbank Commission about meeting that goal sooner if possible, while also preserving the affordability and reliability of our service. So, Senator Portantino, the first question that I have the privilege of asking on behalf of the council is if you could tell us a little bit about any state programs or legislation that might be coming down the pipes that could help the City of Burbank in expanding our renewable energy portfolio.
Well, thank you for that question, and I applaud the City of Burbank for its efforts in having such great renewable goals. Obviously, being compliant with the state is also important. And as you know, my Senate district is kind of unique in a sense that I have a number of municipal governments that have their own power. Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, and obviously the city of LA all have their own power. They're not serviced by the investor-owned utility. So that in and of itself makes my district very unique, and very happy to meet with your folks every time they come to Sacramento to talk about your goals. Obviously, you talked about the EV investment that the city's doing, and the state has $3.9 billion in EV investments for zero emission vehicles coming up this year. Additionally, the state has put $3.7 billion for climate resiliency investments. I do know that the large hydro is an issue for the city. As you know, small hydro counts towards the renewable portfolio, but right now the large hydro does not. And there's a big discussion within the environmental community about the environmental impacts or the energy use to pump the water to make those large hydro facilities work. There's a trade-off on the energy to use versus the energy you create. And so as of right now, the large hydro plants are not part of the renewable portfolio, which I know causes Burbank some consternation. I know you'd like to see that change, but that's really a conversation within the environmental community. This year, we've also put $2 billion in wildfire and emergency preparedness, which also ties into, making Burbank safe. Wildfires are raging across the West. It's something that we all need to be cognizant of. And those of us who remember I guess it was 2 years ago when Burbank was suffering significant blaze. So we're trying to do the best we can this year to cover all aspects of sustainability, all aspects of what makes us environmentally sound. And certainly Burbank City Council is doing its part. There are going to be grants available. There's going to be some direct monetary programs. ARDA will be monitoring those as the state refines we've done the big picture money. I mean, there's a lot of money being spent this year, but there's going to be things that come directly to the city to help you implement. Obviously, you're also a commuter rail corridor as well. Getting people out of their cars is important as well. And then obviously where there's going to be adjustments to the new economy as people got used to working from home. We don't really know what the impact long term is going to be. As you know, Burbank got a residential base, but also has a significant commercial corridor with people who commute to the city. We don't know what the long-term commuter impacts are going to be, and all of that is going to have an impact on how we plan sustainability for the future. And I don't think anybody knows. You see two schools of thought. Some people are dumping commercial property and other people are buying commercial property because people think this is just a blip on commuter habits and work habits. And other people think, remote work is here to stay. So I think it's too soon to tell. But thank you for bringing sustainability as an issue that needs to be on our forefront of the conversation.
Thank you, Senator. And obviously, we all appreciate the partnership with your office to meet that goal. And speaking of greenhouse gases and greenhouse gas reduction, I also wanted to shift now to talking a little bit about our electric vehicle charging infrastructure. About 43% of our greenhouse gas emissions in Burbank are due to transportation. Recently we re-upped our 2020 to 2025 transportation electrification strategic plan and roadmap. And we're very proud of that in particular for ramping up adoption of electric vehicles and charging infrastructure within the city of Burbank. Our plan addresses obstacles to electric vehicle adoption, including a lack of fueling infrastructure, public awareness, and implementation costs. Now, Burbank has increased our investments in electric vehicle charging infrastructure in order to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. For example, we have installed 73 EV charging stations at 17 sites within the city, including 26 stations installed in the last fiscal year alone. And we estimate that this amounts to a reduction of approximately 780 metric tons of CO2 emissions. So we're very proud of that. Of those 26 stations installed within the last fiscal year that I was just referring to, 16 new ports were installed in downtown Burbank and 10 new ports at curbside locations and the BWP employee lot, all of which are open to the public for EV charging. Our goal is to install 500 public charging ports by the end of the decade. I'd also like to note the Burbank 5 and 134 freeway EV fast charging network. We have a goal of installing at least 5 DC fast charges adjacent to our freeways right here in our community. And as you well know, Senator, the Federal Invest in America Act includes $1 million in funding towards this project. So we're very proud of the fact that this latest point, which we took up at one of our most recent meetings, City Council recently approved a new EV commercial charging station rebate program, which will be funded from our low carbon fuel standards program proceeds. We're very excited about what we're working on there, and we absolutely feel that we can meet this goal that we've set for ourselves of the 500 charging stations by the end of the decade. So I guess our next question to you, Senator, is what funding, if any, is included in the state budget and anticipated trailer bills for electric vehicle investments?
Well, I just applaud the city of Burbank for being so far out in front of so many cities with your infrastructure. Your plan is really, really strong and broad throughout the city. So let's start there. Secondly, as I said, the state is going to make $3.9 billion for EV infrastructure projects. What we have to do is drill down into the language. Again, we have to work together to see what protocols and what requirements are in place now, so we can make sure you have access to that, portion of that $3.9 billion. I imagine there's going to be some for the city of Burbank, especially since you're so far ahead of so many other cities. So that's the big pot. That's the macro view. But we can work together to see exactly what grants you'll be eligible for, and obviously that way I can advocate from once you apply on the Sacramento side, and whether it's through the Resources Agency or through whatever CARB or whatever regulatory body is going to be shepherding those funds, I can have direct meetings with those folks and advocate for your project. So we've got to identify the streams, apply sooner rather than later, and then advocate to get that money into your hands. And so I think we can do all three.
Thank you very much, Senator. And before
by the way, I do have one question. Do you guys have a hydrogen station in the city?
I don't want to misstate anything, so I don't know if we have our BWP director or someone from staff who could jump on to.
Because I know for a long time there was only one. There were only like 2 in my district. I'm just curious. I know we spent a lot of time on electric. I was just curious.
We do have one hydrogen station in our city. One, as a matter of fact, it's coming to the council agenda for discussion, I believe, in the next few weeks. Madam City Attorney? No. Oh, hi, Mr. Berkman. Please fill us in.
Mr. Senator, Honorable Mayor, council members, I'm happy to say yes, we do have a hydrogen station, and we are about to get an operator coming, a contract to council, and we're excited to bring that to you and the public and get it up and running very soon.
That's good, because I know South Pass and La Cañada had them, and those were for the longest time. Those were the only 2 in my district, and I know folks from Burbank and Glendale were going either to South Pass or La Cañada. to get filled. So that's exciting. Let me know when that is up and going, so we can promote that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, before I go on, can I get a time check? I just would like to know how much we have remaining.
You know what? Because it's you get 4 minutes.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Before I go on to talk about the bills, we again just wanted to thank your partnership, Senator. We take sustainability really seriously in Burbank, and there's so many other things we just don't have time to talk about today. But whether it's discussion of a single-use plastics ban or a skip the stuff ordinance, our commission, our council is really excited about the things that we're working on to lead the way on sustainability efforts. So the two bills that we wanted to talk with you about were Assembly Bill 758 and Senate Bill 619. I'll be very quick on AB 758. We just wanted to voice that we are supportive of this legislation, which would allow electric utilities to use this financing tool, rate reduction bonds, in order to reduce costs and broaden the types of utility projects that can be financed as part of that tool. So that's something that we feel very strongly about. We hope we can count on your support for that one. And I wanted to spend a moment just talking about Senate Bill 619. Before I do, Senator, did you have anything you wanted to mention about AB 758? I know it's fairly self-explanatory.
No, I know it has a positive impact on Burbank Water and Power, allows you to have some flexibility on the revenue side of the equation. And, obviously as the appropriations chair, I can't telegraph the actions of August 25th ahead of what happens even with my own bills on August 20th. That, for those of you who are out there, that's the day when all of the suspense bills have their day. It's August 25th. But this one is definitely on my radar, and I know that it's important to the city of Burbank. So I've taken those notes. When I look down, I'm writing notes. Just so you know, I got a pen in my hand, I'm writing notes.
Thank you, Senator. So the last bill we wanted to just mention was Senate Bill 619, which for those watching at home would delay penalties on local jurisdictions like the city of Burbank for implementing the guidelines set forth in Senate Bill 1383. As you know, Senator, that bill specified that methane emission reduction goals, including reducing landfill disposal of organic waste, needed to hit a target of 50% by 2020 and 75% by the year 2025 from our 2014 level. We are obviously working very efficiently to try to meet that goal. But as you are probably aware, Senator, Cal Recycle's regulations, even though that bill passed several years ago, the regulations were only approved in November 2020, giving local jurisdictions like Burbank only about 14 months to actually implement and try to meet that target. So we feel strongly that this is a good bill that would help communities like Burbank and not be unnecessarily punitive. So again, we're hoping that we can count on your support for that as well.
Yeah, well, obviously, I voted for SB 619 when it left the state Senate. It's authored by my good friend John Laird, who was the former Secretary of Resources. By the way, who has a connection to the San Gabriel Valley. His father was a high school principal out in the Bonita Unified School District when he was growing up. So he's very, very familiar with our district, even though now he represents Santa Cruz. And it makes sense to give CARB and the cities some discretion to meet the goals versus being punitive, given everything that's going on. So clearly I supported that bill as it left the state Senate, and we'll continue to do so. And thank you for your advocacy on it.
Thank you very much, Senator. Mr. Mayor, I'm pretty sure I'm at time, so thank you for ceding the floor to me for a few moments.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Schultz. I'd like to move on to item 2. I would like to invite Councilmember Constantine Anthony to present the next item on community wellness and provide an update on the city's homelessness and mental health initiatives. Councilmember Anthony, take the lead. You have it for 15 minutes. I'll give you a 2-minute warning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Senator. Thank you for joining us today. I wanted to just go over some statistics here in Burbank real quick before I ask any questions. The last homeless count we had in Burbank was in 2019, and we have an unhoused population of 291 individuals. Obviously, since COVID, that number has risen. We know people are having more trouble finding housing. But we, since April 2019, we had our group Street Plus. They have assisted 110 unhoused folks in Burbank obtain housing and food, clothing, and medical services. They are a wonderful program. I love these guys. They've been here for a few years now, and it's just a marvel what they're able to do. We approved our homeless plan back in 2017, and it involves outreach. It involves keeping track of the data. It's a very data heavy program, and I think that's what is keeping us ahead of the curve on this. We, in addition to the manpower that we put out there, we have now built the storage unit facility, and while it's almost done, we're developing a space at Front Street and Verdugo. It's going to allow for voluntary and sometimes involuntary storage of personal items, depending on where it's picked up and that kind of thing. Non-perishable items. It promotes public health and safety, and it resolves a lot of the issues of obstructing the public right-of-way. Many folks who are unhoused, they don't have a place to put their stuff, and that is one of the biggest problems moving people into shelter and into housing. They have, their whole life is in, a shopping cart, a bag, a duffel, boxes. Creating this storage unit, I think, is going to help a lot of folks. Our proposed program would be run by the Salvation Army and allows up to 60 people to store approximately 60 gallons worth of items. I know that's a weird measurement, but we use the big drums, the 60-gallon drums to store it, and they're waterproof, both if you spill something inside and of course for the rain. So it works really great. In addition, I know we just passed the recent budget, and we hired a social services supervisor. This is going to be a full-time homelessness coordinator here in the city. We've been needing it for a while. We had people working part-time and just getting overwhelmed, and it felt like everyone in every department was trying to take on a little bit of the job. And so hiring a full-time person to really dedicate those hours is really going to help us out. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about funding needs for this. Obviously, Project Room Key, we were this close to getting a hotel under the Project Room Key funding. It didn't quite make it because of time constraints and whatnot. But what we're worried about here in the city is that Project Room Key is going to end when COVID is over, and then there's not going to be any future funding. So do you see anything coming down the pipe for post-COVID or any long-term funding for small cities like us to really build these kinds of shelters and provide services and that kind of thing?
Great question. And again, great local efforts to deal, properly and humanely and dignified manner with the homeless population in Burbank. So kudos to the city for approaching it from all sides. As you know, there's structural issues why we have homeless. There's the impact of COVID, as you highlighted, council member. There's the mental health and wraparound services piece to it. Though many folks focus only on that side of it, there's a structural economic piece of it that is not tied to the mental health side. Where you have mainly middle-aged family, mom or dad loses their job, loses their apartment, and finds themselves on the streets. That's becoming a bigger piece of the homeless population than those with mental health, untreated mental health issues. So for the longest time, we only focused on the mental health piece of it, but the structural piece is there as well, and your efforts are helping. The state, as you saw, I believe last week, the governor announced $12 billion in new funding for homeless programs. Let me say that again, $12 billion. That's a big number, and it's a big percentage of the budget. For the longest time, when you did statewide polling, jobs in the economy came out first. Now, for the last 2 years, homeless is the number one issue on people's minds across the state, across socioeconomic strata. Big cities, small cities, communities, towns, coastal, the number one issue is dealing with our horrendous homeless crisis. And so the governor signed a bill, $12 billion, and that includes $150 million for transitioning people from Project Room Key into permanent housing. So there's going to be $150 million dedicated just for that purpose that you outlined, is what happens when Room Key goes away. We're not just going to take the key away. So there's $150 million that's going to help that population transition into permanent housing. There's $5.8 billion for Room Key over 2 years, creating more than 42,000. This is a Project Home Key, 42,000 homeless units. That's the goal under this $5.8 billion plan, with $2.75 billion for the Department of Housing and Community Development, $3 billion for the Health and Human Services Agency to create clinically enriched behavioral health housing. Again, going back to the wraparound services, it's not just giving somebody a bed. It's giving somebody the services they need and giving them the job training they need. It's giving them the ability to get back on their feet. It's the care facilities, the residential care facilities, and also dealing with the elderly as part of that. There's $2 billion in homeless housing assistance and prevention grants with accountability. That's also important. One of the things that you hear people talk about over the past 5 years is we have voted for these measures. We've created more money. We've given, everybody focuses on the city of LA, obviously, as the biggest population of homeless. And people want to know that there's accountability. So built into this is strong accountability for cities to make sure that the money goes for its intended purposes and that there's a positive outcome. There's $1.75 billion to unlock 72,000 units of housing in the pipeline that's already planned for low-income families and people, so they can exit homelessness. There's 7,200 units that we need to make sure get done. There's $50.6 million for encampment resolution efforts. Obviously, everybody's reading about Venice Beach and other encampments. So $50.6 million just for those, for some humane resolution of that. There's $45 million services for housing for veterans. Obviously, we have a significant homeless veteran population as well, and it's just unconscionable that those who risk their lives to give us the freedoms that we have such a high homeless. They also, as Constantine, you and I know, the mental health issues. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. We have to do better by our veterans population. So I believe the governor is really taking this issue very seriously. So is the legislature, and so is the city of Burbank. So we'll look to see what pots of those things that I outlined we can apply directly to Burbank and work together over the next 6 months to make sure you guys can participate in that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And you touched on, the mental health issue, and, you and I have talked about this many times, about the mental health component. We here in Burbank, we have our own mental health evaluation team for responses to folks, any emergency call that comes in that needs a mental health response. You can actually see from the photo here, we have what we do. It's a licensed Department of Mental Health clinician paired with a police officer who is not in full uniform, and it's a more relaxed look. And that kind of approach has really worked to getting folks the services they need. In 2020 alone, our mental health evaluation team responded to 228 calls for service and assisted 553 individuals with follow-ups, referrals, and consultations. And so far this year, we've helped 322 individuals through the mental health evaluation team. If there's any sort of funding to expand those programs, when people call 911, this is a national conversation that's happening. They expect police officers to be able to do everything, right? They expect them to be a jack of all trades, as well as a licensed clinician and psychologist. And it's just not working. So anything you see coming down the pipe to expand these mental health response units, the city of Burbank would be very gracious. And just to put a couple of things on your plate to watch for, You and I have talked about conservatorship for a while, and one of the things that is problematic with not just our homeless population, but our elderly and people with mental illness is this one-size-fits-all conservatorship laws that we have in the state. And it's in the news now. Britney Spears is in court, and she's trying to get out from under a conservatorship. And for every person who's trying to get out from a conservatorship, there's somebody who can't get the services to be provided one. It's basically a big blunt hammer, and it cuts both ways. If I could, I'll put 3 bills on your radar. SB 724. It was shelved to make it a 2-year bill that allows private counsel for the conservatee. SB 602, which requires a 30-day review of anyone put under conservatorship, including a care plan. It's something that we don't currently have in the state. You don't need to put in a plan of care. And then SB 340, and this is a big one, it allows extended family or friends and acquaintances to testify in a conservatorship hearing. A lot of times, person walking in to see a judge doesn't have anyone there to talk about who they are or what they need, and a judge has to make a decision based on maybe a single sheet of information. I know here in Burbank, there's been a woman who has her mother has had a lot of problems with the neighbors. She is possibly suffering from dementia, and she's just having the hardest time getting the courts to help her out. But it would help immensely for her if the neighbors could come in and testify, if her church group could come in and testify, and under current state law, that's impossible. And so please look at those 3 bills and see what you can do about that. I know it would help not just Burbank, but everyone up and down the state.
Thank you, council member. And as you know, I had the same issue with my own brother when he was in and out of 3 county hospitals, gaming the system, and I couldn't get clear answers of when the hearings were going to be so I could go testify. And obviously my brother wouldn't tell me the truth either. And finally, the last time I thought I had the right time and was going to go testify, and he had given me the wrong time, and I missed the hearing. And next thing I know, he was out, and then a week later, he took his own life. And so, we definitely need to improve that system significantly to make sure that both people who are need the help get the help they deserve, and those people who don't get, accurately and appropriately released. And so, it's a challenge to hit it from both sides. Obviously, Burbank again, has done such tremendous work on the mental health front. The Burbank Unified School District was one of the first communities to adopt a mental health plan. FSA is a wonderful institution that helps our young people tremendously. And this year the state is putting $755 million in this year, $1.4 billion next year, and $2 billion the following year for competitive grants. Now, this is important. The competitive grants go for qualified entities, which would be a city, to construct, acquire, and rehabilitate real estate assets, or to invest in mobile crisis infrastructure to expand the community continuum of mental health, behavioral treatment resources. So obviously, as you look at your plans, the one that jumped out at me is these mobile crisis because then you're not tied to any one neighborhood, then you have flexibility. So we should really look at the language requirement for the mobile crisis infrastructure and see if we can come up with a grant for Burbank to enhance that approach so we can be nimble around the city. So that's something to look at. From my own perspective, I've got SB 14 this year, which is progressing through the system. It always struck me that mental health is not treated the same as physical health. And, we need to make sure. My phone was giving me a notice. Sorry about that. I'm on my phone. So we need to make sure that mental health and physical health are treated the same. And I tell everybody, I was doing an editorial interview, and one of the editors, when I said, if a student is home with a mental health issue, they should be able to have an approved absence. And one of the editors said, well, what happens if the parent lies about the child being home with a mental health issue? And I said, well, you don't ask that question when the parent says Mary or Johnny has a cold. Why would you think they would lie when they would say Mary or Johnny has anxiety or depression or bipolar? And I said, the fact that you would go right to this assumption that somebody would make it up is why we need the bill to destigmatize mental health. And that was from an editor of a major newspaper. And so
2 minutes left. 2 minutes left on this agenda item.
Found very shocking. We're also doing SB 224, which is to create a mental health curriculum for students to learn about mental health while they're in school during their health classes. And any of us who have a teenager at home know that teenagers make great advocates for themselves, even when they don't have information. Can you imagine when you arm teenagers with good information, how strong of an advocate they're going to be? And so we want to teach kids about mental health in school. So I'm happy those two bills are progressing through the system. So Mr. Constantine, you and I have worked together on whether it's autism or other forms of mental health, and I know we're going to continue to work on those issues.
Thank you, Senator. And just lastly, real quick, I wanted to thank you for partnering with the Mickelson Found Animals Foundation and the Burbank Parks and Rec. We had our Pet Wellness Day on May 29th at McCambridge Park. It included a drive-through food pantry. We distributed food for 400 pets, provided vaccinations and grooming for 260 cats and dogs, and microchips for 90 different animals. We also passed out collars and leashes and toys, all kinds of kits. So thank you so much for partnering. I know that contributes to our pets. And obviously, when our pets are happy, the mental health of our citizens are happy.
And I have to say, both my office and the Michelson folks found working with the city of Burbank a pleasure. They must have told me 3 or 4 times that day how easy it was to work with the city of Burbank. And from the first time Colleen and Arda from my office contacted the city of Burbank, you guys were an eager and enthusiastic partner for that program. And as you hit the nail on the head, a healthy pet means a healthy family, and pet wellness and family wellness coming out of the pandemic. It was important for us to do it in Burbank and had a significant turnout of residents and pets that we were able to help be healthy and feed. So thanks, Council Member.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Mayor, I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Anthony. Good presentation. Item number 3. The next item on the agenda is a discussion of the city's housing goals and legislative priorities. Will Council Member Sharon Springer please present this item? Sharon Springer, you'll have 15 minutes. I'll give you a 2-minute warning. Thank you, ma'am. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator Portantino, for joining us, and thank you, Arda, for enhancing our accessibility to the senator. We really appreciate that. In 2019, Burbank City Council adopted a goal of providing 12,000 housing units over the next 15 years. And I think every one of us wakes up every day thinking about how we can ameliorate our housing to jobs ratio. And we have 2 projects under construction right now. The first one is First Street Village. It's located on it's located on First Street between Magnolia and Palm. We approved this project a little over 4 years ago, and the goal of the project was to provide affordable workforce housing. And City Council and the staff and the developer worked together to also provide 14 lower income units. And also included in the development is MER 15 air filtration. It's very close to the freeway and to the downtown Burbank Metrolink station for transportation. But we worked hard with them on that. And the project also includes about 19,000 square feet of commercial and retail space on the first floor. The anticipated opening date is late 2023. You can see that it's under construction right now. Probably you've seen it. And our goal in providing our houses meeting our housing goal is to enhance and grow and protect neighborhoods and not just build buildings. Our next project is on Front Street. We call it Laterra, 777 Front Street. And it's a mixed-use project that includes 573 residential units and a small amount of ground floor retail. The plans also include a 307-room hotel. Again, staff and city council and the developer worked together to provide 69 affordable units into perpetuity. And site grading and shoring work is currently underway. I'm sure you see that. It's across the street from the Metrolink station and the bus depot, and also provides, there's some good linkage to the Pink Route, our bus. And construction should start, the building construction should start in 2022. And I just want to go back. When I say 69 units affordable into perpetuity, I will just say I think that there were 55-year deed restricted. And also, we have a question for you. Are there any pending or proposed policy or budget bills that would provide further incentives for cities like Burbank to responsibly advance housing production, including funding for improvements to infrastructure to accommodate housing developments?
Well, again, one of the arguments that I've tried to make in Sacramento is, Burbank, Glendale, and Pasadena have all been very positive, have taken a very positive and serious approach to the housing crisis, to affordable housing. And it's been one of my frustrations is that we haven't legislated to reward good behavior. And we treat the good cities the same way we've treated those cities that have sued the state of California over the years. And that's been unfortunate. And I'll continue to carry that flag in those conversations. But clearly, Burbank has taken the issue very seriously. The state this year in the budget's actually going to allocate $10 billion in its total affordable housing package. There's $850 million for infill developments and smart growth. There's $800 million to preserve current housing stock, affordable housing stock. One of the things you mentioned, the 55-year covenant that you're putting on properties, there's lots of housing stock around the state where the covenants are running out. And we don't want those affordable units to then become market rate units. And so the state's putting resources to maintain the affordability of that existing affordable housing stock. I don't know if there's any of that in Burbank where will transition to market rate, but there's a pot of money to do that. There's also $100 million that's going to promote first-time home ownership, not just rental stock, but home ownership. And so that's important. And as you know, I represent about 85% of Burbank. The other 15% is represented by Senator Hertzberg. And he and I both share, and I know Councilmember Springer and also former Councilmember Gable Luddy, we've all talked about home ownership, not just home rentals. And so there's going to be significant funding for that. I know Burbank has been hit dramatically with its ADUs based on prior legislation. I guess it was AB, was it 68 a few years ago? I didn't support that bill because of the owner occupancy issue. I felt it was more important to maintain the owner occupancy versus the corporatizing of ADUs. Obviously, ADUs are part of what the state's doing. SB 15, which is my bill to repurpose the dormant retail, got through the state Senate and is now in the Assembly. There's some fighting between the houses. There's 4 Senate housing bills that are facing a little opposition over in the state Assembly. But I'm hoping at the end of the day, SB 15 moves because the pandemic has created more opportunity for the dormant retail. It's going to sit there. And as you know, and the city manager tells you every year, you get more sales tax revenue than you do from property tax revenue, which has created a disincentive. Something that's been lost in sort of this global housing discussion is for 3 decades, cities have been incentivized to pursue retail, not housing, based on the sales tax revenue. And so SB 15 is switching the monetization of land to encourage cities to do housing. So I'm hoping SB 15 moves, but Burbank, this council and prior councils have been very focused on housing, and we'll continue to work on that. And so I outlined a few of the pots of money that we got. I'm creating a lot of homework for the city staff and for my staff after this call is over. I like to tell people I'm good at creating homework for other people. And so collectively, we're creating a lot of homework.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you for the work you do, and we'll be grateful about the homework. And also, while we're talking about First Street Village and Laterra, because First Street Village is going up now, and for the benefit of our newest council members, we also negotiated a sound wall there at that project, soundproofing, and also at least a 2 deep tree line, and maybe even 3 on that project. And so thank you for your response to that question. And as a city with a high jobs to housing imbalance and accessibility to transportation networks, Burbank is often ground zero for bills that threaten local control and can be harmful to single family neighborhoods in jobs rich or transit rich areas. We happen to be both. We have 3 Metrolink stations. We suggest that the state link housing production to improvements in transit systems, local infrastructure, and public services to ensure development is sustainable. The city takes a proactive stance towards the state's housing crisis, but needs flexible solutions, not just a one-size-fits-all approach. We really appreciate Senate Bill 15, and we thank you for introducing that bill. We support SB 15. Burbank's legislative platform supports legislation and programs that provide funding for the development of workforce housing. We are asking for grants, and I think this would be included in SB 15 for rezoning idle retail sites. I think we all agree that we're over retailed. We support protection of all of our residential neighborhoods, and we feel that SB 15 would protect our residential neighborhoods, and we sincerely appreciate that. And there is a lot of potential on our commercial corridors. And we appreciate the financial incentives and options for creative reuse of space. And I know that our housing element update has some creative proposals for that. And I think you know that we, the city, opposes SB 9. We oppose it because it requires ministerial approval of housing developments with 2 units and urban lot splits in residential zones. The legislation lacks an affordable housing component and allows for potentially 4 to 8 units per lot. And the impact on our residential neighborhoods is underestimated. This changes the highest and best use of the land. It increases land values and land prices and increases congestion. And it ignores local control. We're keeping an eye out on all housing legislation, notably SB 10 and AB 215. And we have a session coming up. We'll give you the heads up on it, an update to City Council on pending housing legislation. And it's included in our legislative platform. And I know you're aware that we're just so adamant about the protection of local control. And so we are keeping an eye on all of that, and we will speak up if we feel like our local control is being undermined and circumvented. Thank you. Do you have any additional comments?
Well, thank you, Council Member, and I share many of those concerns, as you know. And one of the things that has struck me in the housing conversation is. And I think Mayor Frutos is the only one old enough like me who knows who FDR is. But you really see a battle between FDR, and Ronald Reagan. And the advocacy groups are sort of flipped 180 degrees, where you have, the Bay Area, which has been a bastion of the left, promoting Reaganomics, which is, market rate housing and trickle down housing as the solution. And you see Southern California embracing more of an FDR model, which is a public financed, incentive-based, public works approach to let's build affordable housing from a public entity. And when the state did away with redevelopment agencies, that was the last truly dedicated funding source for affordable housing. And, I still have the battle scars to show my opposition to the dissolution of redevelopment over a decade ago. And had we not got away with redevelopment, there would have been about $12 to $15 billion that the state would have had to spend on a dedicated revenue stream specifically for affordable housing. And so the world is sort of flipped on end when it comes to the approach. I prefer the FDR model to the Ronald Reagan model myself. And clearly, I look at SB 15 as more in line with the public infrastructure. Let's give you a reason to create housing and use your land that's suited for it. As far as some of the other bills go, I have not given up, and I know your former council member has been an advocate for the equestrian properties in the Rancho area and making sure that we have protections for those. I have not given up on advocating for the Rancho area and making sure that housing legislation accommodates those historic equestrian properties. So that's something that we have to all continue to advocate for.
2 minutes.
Well, as I
2
said
minutes
earlier,
left on this agenda item. 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll try to wrap it up. As I said before, there's lots of studies that show the more you corporatize housing, the more dramatic impact it has, and particularly on communities of color. And that's one of the unfortunate things that by embracing that, cut regulation and empower the developers, we're creating much more of a corporate incentive than we are for a public purpose incentive. And so, I share your concerns and will continue to voice as much as I can within the system to improve what's on the table, and then also advance things like SB 15 that are better.
Great. Thank you very much for advocating for us and for including home ownership advocacy in that.
Right.
We want if that is somebody's choice, we would like them to have the opportunity to participate in that and the wealth building that it provides. And I know there are equestrian residents on this Zoom right now, and they certainly appreciate your advocacy for them. And thank you. We'll be in touch. There's lots of opportunity with SB 15, and we look forward to working with you on that and our overall housing goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One of the ironies, real quick, Mr. Mayor, one of the ironies is I did a housing panel with some high school students from San Bernardino County about 3 months ago. And they did a whole panel subset on renting versus home ownership. And, 18, 19-year-old students of San Bernardino, many of them first-generation Californians, sort of talked about how their families had moved 6 times in their life cycle and how home ownership was their key. Both home ownership and education was their key to upward mobility and economic stability. And, it's a lesson that the state needs to learn more of. We have the prosperity of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, the post-World War II generation, that largely immigrant second-generation community became homeowners as blue-collar workers, and we were part of the American dream, and part of that, the economic benefit that we had through the 70s and 80s is because we provided homes, affordable homes for that entire second generation of immigrants to our country that created, communities across the country. And it's an economic lesson we need to learn more of and revisit. And I've seen some of my colleagues say the American dream is dead when it comes to home ownership, and I'm just not willing to throw in the towel.
Right. Me either. We aren't either. And I think that I agree with you. We must proactively work on that. And we would like to extend that opportunity to every Burbank resident who would like to participate in that. and it will take some proactive creativity working together on it to make it happen. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Springer, on this topic. Our next item, I would like to invite our Vice Mayor, Mayor Talamantes, to present the next item regarding the city's transportation and development projects. Vice Mayor, you'll have 15 minutes with a 2-minute warning. The mic is yours, Vice Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Senator, thank you very much for being with us today, taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us and listen to some of our concerns and suggestions. I'm going to talk about a couple items. I'm talking about Caltrans Interstate 5 North. Empire.
Never heard of the 5.
I know.
Never heard of the 5 North
It's
problem.
going to be brand new to you, all this information.
I mean, what is there something going on the 5, Jess?
Oh, there's so much stuff going on. We even have a picture of something. Hang on a minute. The other thing I'm talking about is the long-range planning and future projects that we have going on, a couple of them that we have going on in Burbank. To start off with the I-5 North, Mr. Senator, you have not only been a supporter, but you've actually sat at the table with myself and Councilmember Springer and Supervisor Barger, rolled up your sleeve and talked to Caltrans and Metro at the same table. So thank you for doing all that work, all the heavy lifting on our behalf. And the residents of Burbank are very grateful to you for doing that. As you can see, it's almost there. I mean, obviously it's looking really good. It's not only serving Burbank, but it's serving the region as well. The businesses that provide the services and goods to the residents and also the neighboring cities that come into Burbank to come and shop and visit us. Metro Board has approved $73 million in funding as a loan towards completion of the project. The California Transportation Commission, CTC, approved state funding to reimburse Metro, which included $8 million for the city of Burbank's unmet needs. And staff just got some word today, I believe it was today or late last night, that Caltrans is moving forward with at least want to have a discussion on the first $4 million of those $8 million. So thank you as well for that as well, to moving forward, because sometimes Caltrans takes a little time to figure it out, and time means money, obviously. And I want to thank you for lighting the fire.
Just have to kick them just have to kick them every now and then.
And we had several meetings, and you did quite a lot of kicking. Thank you very much. It was soft and gentle. It wasn't hard. But there's still need to coordinate the funding loan by Metro Board, which was $73 million, and the funding allocated by the California Transportation Commission to ensure the state's funds will fully reimburse Metro. That's a priority, obviously, and you know that. You've been on top of this project ever since the beginning. So the city looks forward to participating and partnering with your office for additional state funding to address the remaining $3 million in unmet needs in the Metro Railroad right-of-way. There's a lot of not only improvements, I think it's just making it look nice for the community, making it look nice for the people that travel on the I-5. When you actually start looking into, for example, I've done some drive-bys, and when you want to come and do a field trip, Mr. Senator, come on down. I'll be more than happy to take you around the city. And I know you've been in Burbank quite a bit, but focus on the areas that I'm speaking about today.
Right.
So that'll be done in the future. Let's see, long-range planning and future projects. The city's working on updating several long-range planning documents that will direct new jobs and housing close to transit. We've got a couple of videos or slides. The first one would be the Downtown Burbank Transit-Oriented Development Specific Plan. City received a Metro grant to prepare a new specific plan for downtown Burbank and the downtown Burbank Metro Link Station. Will include analysis of existing and proposed land uses, infrastructure, transportation, and opportunities for infill development and housing. The plan will also take into account various mobility users in the downtown Burbank area, expected to be completed in early 2022. And the next plan would be the Golden State Specific Plan. Applies to Golden State District, south and east of the Burbank Hollywood Airport. Includes a high-speed rail station area, as you can see by the slide. And the City Council established a vision guiding principles and preferred land use approach for the project. So staff has been very busy. Staff is currently working with project consultants and identifying district-wide mobility improvements, and the final plan will be presented to council early 2022. So 22 will be a very exciting year. The first question I have, Mr. Senator, is there any future state funding available for transportation infrastructure improvements that cities should be looking at?
Well, first of all, it's been a great partnership. Obviously, the City Council Subcommittee, yourself and Councilmember Springer, along with the supervisor and my office, the three entities have worked very, very well together. And truthfully, we've needed to. If you remember just last month when the recommendation was going to the CTC, the $54 million we wanted suddenly was only going to be $32 million. And, I was actually glad that Caltrans gave me a heads up on Friday morning before the Monday hearing that the CTC was not going to approve the Caltrans submission, and spent all weekend haranguing CTC board members to make sure that they did the right thing come that board meeting the next week. And we were able to get the full $54 million to fund the city's unmet needs list and complete the project. Now that did everything except those projects that are subject of litigation and the projects on Metro's right of way. So we still have a little bit more work to do. Obviously, I'm not involved in the litigation and fighting over some of the things. You guys all have to figure that piece out. And then we have to navigate with Metro on the pieces of the puzzle that are specifically in their domain. But the $54 million is going to do everything else. And so that's the good news. And again, after kicking a few tires over that weekend, we were able to get the full 54. And what's been nice is, when Burbank hears of something, they call us. When the supervisor hears from something, the three entities, we really have been working and pushing and pulling in the right direction. The short answer to your question is yes, there is going to be more resources available for transit corridors, for transit systems. Not so much for freeway construction, but mitigation and other things. There is going to be money. Obviously, anything that any landscaping, anything that's drought resistant. There's efforts in safety, those type things we can look at. But we really got to get the litigation behind us, and then we've got to navigate the Metro right away. I'm not so concerned long term about the financing piece of it. I'm more concerned about the bureaucratic piece of it, which, as we just saw, even when we had a deal on the table, if you don't watch folks like a hawk, those things can fall apart. Now, it's a testament to Caltrans that they didn't wait till the hearing to give me the bad news. They called me on the Friday, which gave me at least 3 days to figure it out. And so I think, Caltrans from 5 years ago probably would not have been so forthright. But under Tony Tavares, they've been much more forthright than they have in the past. So we do have to give them a shout out. They were asking for the right amount of money. There were just some protocols within the CTC that the staff saw things differently than Caltrans and didn't want to set a precedent. And so we actually got them to set a precedent with how they dealt with Burbank. So that was the good news, the good resolution of that. So I anticipate we're in a good economic situation, but let's see how far this $54 million goes. Let's see how the litigation goes, and let's see how we navigate with Metro. But everybody recognizes that this corridor isn't just a Burbank corridor. This is a statewide interest to make sure that this is done right. I can tell you just from my personal perspective, when I leave Burbank Airport, I like going down Empire than I did having to go north and navigate Buena Vista and getting on the 5 going, making a left versus coming right out of Burbank Airport and onto Empire and accessing the freeway. I mean, the mobility and the circulation. The plan is the right plan. And in a strange way, having a lot of the construction happen over the lockdown was help the contractor, which needed the help, because we all know how that contractor has struggled over the past decade. In a strange way, having less traffic helped facilitate a lot of the progress we've seen now. So I like to think that Providence, in a weird way, is lining up behind us to get this done as quickly as possible. And I know Metro and Caltrans wants to see this in the rearview mirror and stop looking at it going forward. So as do all of you.
Definitely. I just want to add one more thing. You mentioned Mr. Tavares. He's very user-friendly. I know you've encouraged him. We're very happy with him. He's done quite well in not only Burbank, but the region that he served, District 7, I believe it is.
Yeah, District 7, yeah.
Yeah, he's been great. So the next item of information I want to share with you is major commercial developments in Burbank. The city continues to attract new businesses. For example, Netflix signed a lease for 171,000 square feet. Let me repeat that. 171,000 square feet of space for its new animation studio at Burbank's Empire Center, the biggest office lease in Los Angeles County in 2020. A couple other developments that I want to mention to you: the Avion Burbank, which is over by the airport, adjacent to the proposed new terminal. There's a slide there that you can see what they're proposing. Located in Hollywood Way, 61.5 acres of mixed industrial, office, retail, and hotel space, adjacent to the airport and surrounded by industrial and storage uses as well as vacant land. Includes 6 industrial flex buildings totaling 1,004,307 square feet. Yes, that's 1 million square feet. 9 creative office buildings of 142,000 square feet and 2 retail restaurant buildings of approximately 15,000 square feet and a hotel with 150 rooms. Portions of the project are still in construction, with a hotel to be completed in 2023. Some current and expected tenants include Jersey Mike's, Randy's Donuts, Tesla Solar, and Home Depot Solar, as well as Last Mile Amazon delivery station. So that would be the Avion Burbank on Hollywood Way, right next to the airport. The next project I'm going to talk about is the Warner Brothers Second Century project. As the media capital of the world, Burbank will now have an iconic building designed by renowned architect Frank Gehry and developed by Worth Real Estate Group. Consisting of 2 towers, the new campus will allow for increased collaboration and interaction for Warner Brothers. Building permits for both towers have been issued, and construction is anticipated to be complete by 2023, which will be Warner Brothers' 100th anniversary. You can see it on the slide there. It's going up. I mean, if you travel on the 134 as you're going by Warner Brothers, it's looking amazing. So we're very fortunate to have that construction going on in Burbank. So
2-minute warning,
down,
Vice
Mr.
Mayor.
Senator,
2-minute warning.
and I just want to be respectful of the mayor's 2-minute warning. I just want to thank you. Obviously, I've thanked you several times along this, but for always making yourself, I want to thank your staff as well for making yourself accessible and always willing to make accommodations to either, if not meet with you personally, get the message to you. That's something that's important to Burbank. So on behalf of myself and my colleagues, obviously we've been working together a long time, Mr. Senator. I want to thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilman. I really appreciate you giving a shout out to my staff, because Arda does a great job representing the city, and you can't teach 2 things. You can't teach nice and you can't teach smart. And I'm blessed that she's both nice and smart, and in particular on the I-5, she's really rolled up her sleeves, and every time something happens, puts photographs in front of me or make sure that I'm up to speed. And so I appreciate you recognizing her for all of her work, because I can't do it all by myself. I mean, it's truly a team effort. I'm also hoping that new facility you referenced gets the benefit of the tax incentive the studio tax incentive that we're hoping the governor signs this week, because that goes into a law the moment it's signed. As a tax levy, it doesn't have to wait till January. And so the studio production folks can start accessing that incentive as soon as the governor signs the legislation. So I'm hoping that, I know it's going to benefit Burbank as far as creating more opportunities for film production, but we want the physical infrastructure, because the life cycle of a studio is 100 years. And so if we build more studio space, that's, 10 decades of employment for the workforce, as well as those union construction jobs to build those sound stages. So it really has a significant ripple. Now, you mentioned that Warner Brothers is going to turn 100. Now the city of Burbank is going to turn 110, is it?
We just did, yes, July,
Yeah, so,
July 8th.
So happy birthday, Burbank, as well. You're older than Warner Brothers, and significantly. And so I just also want to congratulate the city on its milestone.
Thank you, sir. Now, one question in regards to those, what we're waiting for the governor to sign. Is that in addition to what was proposed, 4 or 5 years ago that went to the studios?
It is. So the current tax credit was a $330 million tax credit, and they estimated that it was going to be that demand was outpaced the expenditure by $180 million, so $90 million a year. So it was actually my bill, SB 144, created $180 million of priming the existing tax credit, $90 million a year for 2 years, and then $150 million on top of it to incentivize new studio construction. So now if you build new sound stages and those sound stages yield to productions, you're going to get $150 million in more tax incentives. And there's a diversity component to it. You get extra money if you create a more diverse workforce, which is something that the industry has been criticized for years, is the homogeneity of the industry. And so now you get an additional credit if you meet diversity goals. So it's really a great win for Burbank, for California, for the workforce, and for those who care about diversity within the workforce. It covers all the bases.
Well, the media capital of the world thanks you.
There you go.
There you go, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. And I'll bring up the last topic, Senator. Madam City Clerk, if you can monitor my time, 15 minutes, and then give me a 2-minute warning so I can finish it up. Relief for small business and residents, Senator. I'm going to kind of go through our pandemic relief programs, and I've got a couple questions in between during my presentation for you. So an overview. The plan was approved in 2020 to help vulnerable residents and small businesses. The eviction moratorium, the city instituted several eviction moratoriums for residents. One is the residential eviction moratorium that was first adopted on March 17, 2020, and ended in September 30th, 2020, as it was superseded by Assembly Bill 3088. On June 28, 2021, Assembly Bill 832 extended the state eviction moratorium for eligible households to September 30th, 2021. And on the commercial eviction side, that is set to expire September 30th, 2021. We also have small business and rental assistance. The city utilized the Community Development Block Grant CARES Act monies funding to provide forgivable loans to businesses and micro entrepreneurs and rental assistance for struggling residential tenants. 210 residents applications were received with over $417,000 in funds were used. 74 small businesses have received assistance with $945,000 in these funds have been spent so far. Question, Senator, do you anticipate the extension of the governor's executive order regarding commercial eviction protections or legislation to aid commercial tenants, sir?
Well, I think it's something that is on everybody's mind. I think the first line of defense was, residential evictions and the impact on families. So extending the moratorium to the 30th, having 100% repayment of rent. That's, went from 80% in the original to now it's 100%, to having a program where we're going to pay overdue water and utility bills as well. So that was the first order of business, is stabilizing the rental housing market. But I do think the commercial piece is getting more and more conversation and more thought, because I think we've done a very good job, and the city has done a very good job as well on the individual piece. And I think the next sort of the flip side is, all right, now that we've done what we could do there, let's make sure that the commercial side gets the care. So I don't know, I can't telegraph what's the end product, but I do know there's significant conversation there. And it's the same with the small business loan program. Again, it was to think small, to think local for the state. And, originally it was, I think, just before Christmas when the governor introduced the first small business relief package. And then the demand was so great, the deadline was extended, and then it was reloaded with $2 billion. And so, we've got $5.2 billion to help low renters and landlords. And then we've got, several $1 billion to help small businesses. And what is it? Six, I think there's been 6 programs. Yeah, there's been 6 iterations of the small business loan program. So our goal was to stabilize the economy. And if you all remember last year when the pandemic first started, we thought this year's budget was going to be horrendous. We all thought we were going off the fiscal cliff. And it turned out to be healthy. Now, economists can argue whether that was done on the backs of the individual or, because the way we tax the system that, big businesses and corporations did better than they should have. That's a global conversation, not for this call. But the impact of the state budget has been one that this is our healthiest budget, from spending more on schools than we've ever had in the history of California. The per pupil spending is off the charts, to the rental housing and assistance programs I just outlined. We are putting our money where our mouth is and putting our priorities back. And I'm pleased that much of the architecture of the final budget was the Senate architecture, just like it was last year. And the 2 houses then worked together on adopting that architecture, and we've had the resources to invest.
And you've kind of covered it, but I got to ask, because all 5 of us on council really get a lot of these questions that are really beneficial for the folks that are watching this meeting. How can Burbank renters take advantage of the state aid, and what are the parameters for any state programs to help out renters? We all get these questions.
Well, first of all, the applications are all readily available online, and my staff's there to assist anybody who has any issues. So none of you be shy. We actually just added a new staffer specifically to do casework as well. So we have an additional caseworker. We have been very helpful to where we can. Obviously, you got to meet the deadlines. You have to qualify. You got to do what there's certain minimum things you gotta put out there. But as these programs get refined, as these programs get extended, if you've missed the window, I anticipate there's going to be continued investment in small businesses as we go forward. And don't be shy reaching out to my staff to make sure you're in the best competitive way and make sure. We haven't really talked about the EDD issue as well, but go drilling down to the individual, the family. EDD has been a nightmare for the last 2 years. It has. And I'd say 80% of what my staff has been dealing with in the last year and a half have been EDD cases, hundreds and hundreds, each of them every week. And they're on the phone with EDD. We have direct lines to EDD, and we've been very successful. Now, we can't help everybody because every situation is unique, but clearly the EDD issues we can help where we can help in those. And so don't be shy if you're out there with an EDD claim or an EDD issue. And we'll be straight. If you meet the criteria, we're going to help you. And if you don't, we're going to tell you why things didn't go the way you wanted. But we've been helping more people navigate that system. So that's very important. And on the small business, the total investment the state has made I said $2 billion, it's actually $4 billion And there's the $35 million California Dream Fund, which is $10,000 to encourage entrepreneurship and small business creation. So that's another area where we can try to help you. And then there's $500 million in new grants for workers who became unemployed. So we want to try to transition people as well. So there's $500 million in that fund as well.
Great. Let me brief you on our workforce development, what we're doing here in Burbank. So we have partnered with the Burbank Chamber of Commerce for pop-up job booths in the downtown Burbank AMC walkway. We started that back on July the 9th. We had it on the 10th, and we also had it on the 11th to help out the small Burbank businesses promote their job openings. It's a virtual job fair. And we also are going to follow up with our Central Library has Spark. It's a digital media lab, has technology offerings and programming to help build job skills in the tech field. Our library has further programming and resources, weekly one-on-one sessions with business owners, counselors, entrepreneurs, and other small business owners. And also we have monthly hands-on computer classes focused on workforce skills. Our economic recovery here in Burbank, the city council members here have worked on the economic recovery. We have a task force that holds focus group meetings with various sector businesses, and a final report will be presented to my colleagues on the council in August to see how that's working, because we're holding metrics to make sure that we're really focused on the right direction. And also, what's really unique for Burbank that we started, and the city council's partnering up also with the chamber, is the Chow Down for Burbank. It's a 90-day campaign to showcase the different eateries in Burbank. Outdoor dining. In response to the closure of indoor dining last year, the city issued emergency order closing portions of San Fernando Boulevard to allow vehicle traffic. Currently, San Fernando is open, but the parklet dining is allowed. We've also noticed, Senator, that a lot of the residents and the business owners have individually met with us to talk about how much they like the outdoor experience, and suggested to the council that we really revisit this, because we extended it till the end of the year. But we're all meeting with our support groups and kind of getting an earful of how much they really like the outdoor dining experience. So we'll see where we go in December, but it's definitely very enjoyable for the residents and the visitors that come to Burbank.
Well, I agree. And I think with the, obviously we haven't talked about the mask issue, but with LA County, reinstituting the indoor mask requirement, I would think a lot more folks are going to be looking to dine outside because they can go maskless, frankly.
Yep.
So, I, for one, have found it very, very popular to eat outside. So I know you guys are going to be under a lot of pressure to do that.
Yep, which actually, we're always lock and key, Senator, so this brings me up to a follow-up question to your comment. Can you provide an update on the California Small Business COVID-19 Relief Grant Program, and how can a local Burbank business owner benefit from that, sir?
Absolutely. So I think it's 1.5 billion is in the program, and the total investment is at $4 billion. And so for information and updates, I think the website is Care Life. So it's CARELIEF grant.com. So if you go to CARELIEF grant.com, you can get information. There's $35 million for the California Dream Fund. And one thing we didn't mention is the Golden State Stimulus Fund as well, which I understand that 2/3 of Californians will be eligible for it's a $600 check, and then families with children can get an additional $500. So that's direct cash that folks can apply. And for that, you can go to www.ftb.ca.gov. So that's the Franchise Tax Board website, and it's the Golden State Stimulus Fund. So you've got the business relief and then the individual relief as well. So there's two tracks.
Outstanding.
Good question, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let me give you an update on our senior nutrition. Oh, I just been flagged down for 2 minutes. Real quick, the senior nutrition program and Project Hope has over 100 meals in the last year alone to Burbank seniors, with 13,021 meals served to 465 seniors in the month of June alone. Project Hope provided a total of 308 hours of service to seniors in need, pairing them with 39 active volunteers with 82 seniors. We do not want our seniors to be alone, especially as we were in the pandemic. They are very critical to us in Burbank. We're not going to leave them alone. Residential utility awares. In April 2020, the City Council authorized the suspension of water and power disconnections and late fees to provide relief during the pandemic. The utility continues to work with customers to address areas, offering customer payment arrangements, COVID-19 job loss bill credit program. The City Council just approved to use $2 million in public benefit funds for electric bill assistance. Between November 2020 and June 2021, 2,786 customers have received financial assistance. And that was so important to the entire council as we were going through our budget process for this new fiscal year on making sure we look after those folks that were victims of COVID-19. $657,000, 300 in bill credits, and 56% towards multifamily residents. Lower income assistance program, newly approved, and it starts in October. Existing rebate and assistance program for Lifeline, Project Share, etc. Question, Senator, and I only got 2 minutes because I got to be fair to my colleagues, but this is an important one. In Burbank, residential utilities have grown from $1 million in March 2020 to $3.1 million in May 2021. Commercial stands at $1.3 million for a total amount of $4.4 million. Senator, thank you so much for your support of our utility by passing AB 148 and AB 135 as it was floating there in Sacramento. Thank you on behalf of the people and the council. Allocating state funding to help Burbank residents and commercial customers overcome the really hard financial hardships due to COVID-19, and addresses for electric, water, and wastewater services. And that is my 15 minutes is over, sir, but you can have 30 seconds to close it up before we continue.
Well, thank you. Obviously those arrears payments were important. You needed the revenue, and the residents and the businesses needed the help. So it was a way to help everybody across the board. We also didn't talk about AB 80, which is the conformity with federal law and on taxes, which created an opportunity for a lot of small businesses on PPE loan forgiveness. So hopefully y'all talk to your accountants about the implications of AB 80, which was a cumulative of $6.2 billion in tax relief for small businesses. So everybody make sure you talk to your accountants to see if what part of that you can use to offset your tax liability. So we tried to cover, across the board. And, I think we're doing the best we can. And I think Burbank has set a great example on its local leadership as well. So thanks.
Sir, at this point, I would love to turn over the meeting to you with no time allotment. The mic is yours to please update the council and the members of the Burbank community on your legislative priorities or any other updates. There is no time limit, sir. The mic is yours.
Well, I have no desire to take another hour and a half. As Winston Churchill once said, there's no such thing as a bad short speech. So I think we've covered a lot of detail, but I do want to highlight a few things. Obviously, for me, I legislate as a dad. That's sort of the lens that I use of what I find important, which is why I deal with a lot of the small town issues that Burbank, why we're simpatico on sort of the small town infrastructure issues. Education is key. I mean, people move to Burbank because of the school district. And so I really focus on those issues legislatively. Obviously, the entertainment industry we've talked about, and with the tax incentives. But this year I'm focused on mental health for our kids, making sure that, as I said earlier, mental health and physical health are treated the same, that our kids are educated on mental health issues so they can be advocates for themselves. Councilmember Anthony and I have talked about the autism efforts that we've made. I'm back again with a bill that's been vetoed 3 times by 2 different governors on creating some opportunities for families with autistic children to get medically necessary doctor prescribed treatments that are evidence-based, covered by insurance. Under the current system, there's only one treatment for autism that your insurance pays for. And so if you have a child that benefits from other autism treatments, you have to go out of pocket to pay for those treatments. And so we're trying to get the state law aligned with the medical community on treatment for our autistic kids, because we know it's expensive, we know it's needed, and one group shouldn't have a monopoly over the care of our children. And so that's a bill that I've been working for the past 5 years on. Today I found out that the Poway shooter who went into that synagogue pleaded guilty today for those murders. And, you know, I've been carrying a bill to close the loophole that put that high-powered weapon in the hands of that teenager. And so we've got that bill that we're moving through the system. And July 1st, my bill to ban those high-powered weapons from those under 21, the purchase went into effect. So teenagers can no longer buy those high-powered centerfire rifles in California. And if you're an adult, you can only buy one a month. And so that was a hard-fought battle to get that through the system. You know, I did the state safe storage of weapons in homes. So if you let your gun fall into the hands of a prohibited person, that's a crime now in California. And Jess, you talked, or Bob, you talked about seniors. You know, one of the things that we found was unregulated is when grandma and grandpa went into that senior facility and they had a gun in the shoebox, nobody looked in the shoebox. And there was a situation recently where in Sacramento, an Alzheimer's patient, you know, found the gun in the shoebox and started shooting up the senior facility. And so now when you go into those facilities, we're not taking your gun away, but we're making sure it's locked up properly and making sure that the senior facility knows that you brought a gun in and that it's locked up. And so whether it's helping our kids get through school healthy and adjusted, or helping our seniors have a quality of life, those are the issues that I care deeply about. And obviously, you know, representing the communities to the best of my ability and helping out. And you know, you've all talked about accessibility. You know, I love my district and I really value the relationships that we have, because we can talk about things. You know, none of you are shy and you all interact with me, whether it's on the phone or whether it's through Facebook or whether it's at an event. You know, out of that conversation, we do better together. And, you know, I really value the relationships that I have with you, Mr. Mayor, and your entire council and staff to serve the city of Burbank. So thank you for this opportunity. And I hope we continue to have more dialogues.
Okay, very, very much appreciated your time and your comments, Senator, and your leadership in helping us out. Again, it's really important that you're here with us and engaged with us, and we do appreciate your valuable time. I would like to ask my colleagues if there's any closing comments, any further question, not a long discussion, council members, but anything in closing. I turn the mic over. Who would like to start first? I see Vice Mayor, followed by Councilmember Anthony. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question of the senator. When he started talking about seniors, he referred to me. I don't know if there was something.
I just got confused between you and Bob, who brought up the seniors, and then I corrected myself. It had nothing to do with your gray beard, Jess.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks again for being here.
Your beard is just like mine. So
there you go.
Councilmember Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again for coming today, Senator. And yes, SB 562, I am watching that one. And hopefully this is the year that it takes hold and we get the governor to sign it.
Councilmember Schultz, any closing comments, questions, followed by Councilmember Springer?
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Mayor. Senator Portantino, just wanted to thank you again for your time today. I'm really glad that you brought up those bills that are aimed at reducing gun violence. Thank you for your leadership there. And I would just encourage anyone who's watching, we are very lucky to have a senator who is so accessible, not just to us as elected officials, but to all of you. So if you are facing an issue, if you have an idea for a bill, I would strongly recommend that you reach out to him or his staff because they have just been terrific to work with. So thank you, Senator.
And council member, we have taken many conversations on the street and turned them into bills signed by the governor. My breast cancer diagnosis came out from a conversation in a post office, and my umbilical cord blood bill was also brought to me by a mom of a child who had his leukemia cured. So I'm happy to steal anybody's good idea and turn them into law.
Councilmember Springer.
Yes, thank you, Senator, for bringing up the commoditization and securitization of housing and the impact that it has on affordability, the impact to rents and the impact to sale prices. And I know our mom and dads are just having a hard time competing with all cash offers by investors. And I just hope that I wish there were a way to claw back some of the housing that we lost after the downturn, after the Great Recession. And I'm just asking that you just please keep that in mind in all of the bills and all of the housing legislation now and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator, I'd like to take this opportunity before I weigh in last, I'd like to invite our city manager for any comments or just want him part of this meeting. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Senator Portantino. Thank you, Council. I thought that this was a really good dialogue. Staff, along with myself, has been taking many notes, so we'll be working hard with Arda, who's great to work with, and the rest of the staff over there with Senator Portantino's office. So we look forward to working with you and helping and assisting with some of these projects. And clearly, I thought it was a great, robust discussion today, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And then obviously now it's my turn. I have a couple, we have e-comments that the city clerk compiles. I'm not going to read all of them, but I have to tell you that a lot of folks in the community definitely do not support Senate Bill 10. They oppose Senate Bill 478. They oppose Senate Bill 9. And these are the residents. But what's interesting, your Senate Bill 15, they support it. So you're definitely walking in step with a lot of our residents. I really appreciate you taking the leadership for special needs, having my older brother of special needs. You're just locked in. I think it's important to look after these folks. They need us to represent them. And it's the humane approach, it's the ethical approach. And I want to say thank you for that. That means a lot to me. And your comment about FDR and Reagan and Northern California versus Southern California, you're locked in, Senator. Coming from, immigrated parents, being the first generation Mexican-American here and owning a home, first one in my family, in the stability, you are so locked in on what I know, Councilmember Springer and I, we talk a lot about home ownership it's so critical. And I really appreciate that you're fighting against your colleagues to the importance of the stability of neighborhoods and communities, and not forgetting that home ownership is still the American dream for all people. And it's so critical that we think outside the box to get more funding, creative finance opportunities. But to me, it's really important to try to get permanent ownership into our neighborhoods and across the state of California, because again, coming from, immigrated parents to the first day that from, getting a job as a Los Angeles police officer and being able to save my money and buy a home, it was so important to my parents to see that American dream happen for their sons. So I do appreciate what you're doing for us, and I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you do day in and day out, because sometimes it's frustrating, but I know every time I go to Sacramento and walk those hallways and lobby all these other senators, I can always count on you to have a meal with me and catch me up on what's going on and stuff, and I do appreciate your unwavered time every time I come up to lobby on behalf of the residents up in Sacramento. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and everybody. I appreciate it.
Well, this pretty much will conclude. If there's anything in closing, Senator, any remarks as we end our meeting, I turn the mic over to you. No time.
No, this has been a great conversation. It was great that you included the city manager, because we do have a lot of work to do. These meetings are important so people hear the topics, but now we got to continue to work on them, for the next 6 months to make sure we bring these subjects to fruition. And what was the name of that restaurant you told me about last night?
You know what? It's that Elvis impersonator one that a friend of mine invited me that saw you there. And I said, oh, I want to go to that one. It's next to your house, I guess.
No, the one with the chicken wings you told me in Burbank.
Oh, it's Over and Under right here. You're going to join me for
Over
hot
and
wings
Under.
and some killer fries.
I got to go to Over and Under. So that's my next destination in Burbank.
All right, then, as a mayor of Burbank, I've got a challenge down within the next 30 days, sir. We are going to have chicken wings, and the mayor's actually going to get into his pocket and buy you some chicken wings. Woohoo!
There you go, my friend. Sounds good.
All right.
Everybody be well, be safe.
All right, so now we will adjourn this joint meeting with our senator to Tuesday, July the 27th, for a regular city council meeting. The public may view the meeting online or on television and will be able to provide public comment in the following 3 ways: by leaving an e-comment on the city's webpage, burbankca.gov/e-comments, by emailing the Burbank City Council directly at citycouncil@burbankca.gov, or by calling in directly to the council meeting at 818-238-3335. And I'd like to remind the Burbank residents that we originally had the council here last meeting, but with the COVID-19 mask wearing and practicing safety, we are going to go back a couple of notches, and the council members will be in their offices or at home, but we're going to practice the safe rules by the recommendation of the county health officer. So the council members will not be live on the council, will be on Zoom, and as soon as the county health department gives us the green light to come back, we'll start working on bringing the council members back to council. But I just want to give everybody the reason why we're doing this, and it's all about the safety and the recommendations by the county health department. Thank you so much for understanding. Thank you for joining us today, and I will see you next Tuesday at the next council meeting. Good night, Burbank. Good night, staff. Good night, council members.